Musiaisia ninawekwatio kana we museo kwa ivinda yengi ni ulocha nthini wa kilungu cha Uiiti balapithia watu inanisia maume kiwathukanio tukamana mama yetu ni chau tona kuitwa ata utona kwisuvia nata nye nitawa Robert Mutuko na indi ethi wawine kulio kana woni yolwa kilungu kitu tumie kwisila utumani mukuvi kwa ili tukaenda imwe itano ambia na ndeto Uiiti na nitwithi watu ikunikila utumani waku na kwika kila cha ilite nina udhocha tukwatianie na daktari wito muthenyani wa umundi aindi daktari wati ndata tulilikani masitwa na vala withiawa.
Asante muno Robert, kwa masitwa nitawa Dr. Ngami Mutwa ni consultant physician nithukuma bano Machakos Hospital wa Leland Specialist Clinic Uwau Bano Susu Center.
Daktari muthenyani wa umundi twenda unanisia Uwau wa stroke. Yo uno wa kwa kikamba kwa twelesi.
Stroke ndisika na isitwa kikamba lakini nila ithia zakame yena bikanese katika brain ni endete kwithia na blood supply within zakame ni rotate ni kukwata oxygen ni kukwata energy. So kindu keke kikaukedha be section ya brain zakame itana bikanese isamuso si ne they supplied kutuka twithia twasya mundu no kwatwe ni stroke nundu yuka na effect si ila tuisa kwesa kunene.
Na wo ili hata Kenya niwe kwa wingi
niwebo kwa wingi nundu ila risk factors situmawe kwata stroke ta diabetes na hypertension si very common na whether stay controlled mure kwata stroke ibe there na types ile ya stroke kawaida baida ya nzakame yina bikanesa nundu be na blockage kwa one of the blood vessels in the brain kana ile blood vessel ibasti ya cause bleeding in the brain. So katwa hizo si ile no ya blockage no they are very common accounting for about 90% of the cases na ile ya blood vessel ya burst by bleeding in the brain it ya about 10%.
Isu nisio mithemba ya stroke la twinayo.
Iso mithemba ya stroke. Between ya stroke zakame blood supply ina abikatwene opowa either it is because pain and clot if prevent a blood kubika side so that tukita ischemic stroke kana ila tuita hemorrhagic blood ikitie vessel blast ye wakwata blood ye spill in the brain.
Na ne chao kila kitu maake kithewa
we isamu biggest onyo tuma mundu kata stroke na isamu nota very common things la tunene every other day hypertension keda pressure yi controlled no is very high atuma a vessel in the brain ye burst ikukwatela hemorrhagic stroke kanoke they are saying ona ite controlled for a long time pressure that was atherosclerosis blood vessels in the brain si this scenario mpaka one time one of the blood vessels ye kita ku block blood ile obikabu nundwa uncontrolled hypertension isamuta sukali does the same thing na isamungeni kasebe na nange mundu either na some malformation of the blood vessels in the brain itumeila tuita aneurysm a burst na we kwata isu hemorrhagic blood stroke. Then there are other things that smoking risk factors to atherosclerosis na whether we na some blood disorders no there we na a blood disorder kutuma your blood vessels ni bingi mwene si atuma we kwata either a blockage because of blood very thick and okay they are saying bleeding tendencies.
Into anene ye bindaina kwitina heart failure kana thina wango not on otuma mundu akwata ni wau
very true. Saying wina heart failure with the abe greater dilated cardiomyopathy like ngoya kuni ni dilate inene na yili kuda undu ngoi blood ile kuda je kuna yo kuna neso ndo ile kuna so the blood is like it is sluggish ila is sluggish udatu tata ya mala ikwanda. So if you get those blood is clotting in the heart they are saying yes so kuna ikuma ya katika heart ya brain ya kwata stroke. Saying no they anandwanga twasiabe saying wango kuna muno what we call atrial fibrillation. So then ngoya kuna mituki with na risk ya pia blood kusa kwanda in the heart na kuweza kuembolize kumangoni kudhi kuna hivi kwete stroke katika akilini. Then ona isamuingi other heart conditions that ila we mundu siwe siana mundu asiwe ena akama asia ena yima ngoni like foramen oval some of the congenital heart diseases you see there are risk ya eventually as an adult no so kwata clot hivi kungina kwa cha kungina brain ni kwete stroke.
Na wo asukale
diabetes is a major risk factor. It is controlled through kwetela rust katika blood vessels we kwata atherosclerosis. Now we see the vessels in the brain they are very small, so a small rust even can cause a blockage in part ya brain na iso kwete stroke. ikwete ila blood itobika pala ile kubika na section yesu ya kanza kama ukuta nyo tukasema na effects ya stroke.
Na be cases twewa mundu mwe ena ndakame ni mwene na uyo ametokera ene uyo na mundu na wisa either na ndakame mbinge mwene na yesu no ichangie kwete wao.
Yes, that is what we're talking about. Ila blood disorders yokuda ndakame nita concentrated muno with the asenge pe andu nita ne natiki ndo kawaida kwa no produce more than necessary. That was the HB ya kwele kwa between 12 na 16. You get the above that very concentrated na niwe so nakuta wa compare ya na mala ikwesela bandu yethi nesatiwo na mala because it is thick yethi sluggish. So either in excess concentration in your blood either in HB either in platelets because of that sluggishness na the vessels in the brain they are small tiny you can kitumekuda blockage no the sluggish flow of blood you para ilo dinesa.
No mundu ena ndakame ni mwene
wena ndakame ni can also cause a form of stroke nundu wa hypotension niwe seto ina wa blood flow in the brain na iwe danza kame ni niwe na any cause wa lose a lot of blood hypotension HP your nzakame hivi down need to ma the flow to the brain could be reduced. And what we are talking about stroke the blood flow to the brain that is not adequate. And most of the time it's in a section here they are prevented from getting to where it's supposed to be. So no ke na hypotension no itume we pata stroke no blood iwo bikaneso ndele kwidira ile.
Kwa une kwasa wo uma akilini brain
ni brain tingo when we talk about stroke ni brain brain ukethia undu yile i supply when the blood vessels penda a lot of blood vessels
ola uongo
iwongo ukethia penda section yake blood itanabika
ndakamete obika
nundu wa many reason to kwasa no the clot block ye kana the blood vessels la siende katika ngo isu kameka basti nundu wa high blood pressure. So the stroke ni in the brain effect ya ala kubika we kwata you got a lot of complications ni ukakita mundu maybe you symptoms to kusakonenia you effect isu siye katika brain no you to kwata wina stroke kwa sawa ina stroke
na tunane ile yeyolwa energy drinks na watu yani ndoku ni tuma blood pressure ya mbata no ichangie mundu kupatwa ni stroke pengine ni wanywa na veins kana make wezo mwene yakasuka no
kila kituma not more of energy drinks but madawa za kulevya ndio nene ya cocaine utumia dawa nyingine vijana maendelea kutumia tumewekata stroke through either pressure kwamba tamitoki muno i burst can also sikukulia situma the vessels si constrict si ni never muno so dawa za kulevya zinaweza kuchangia kupata stroke.
Na otio ndawani isube kindu to na utumia kanoka ya kikatuma ndakame ikama kithemba chwa weta kikaito stroke.
Not really directly, but ilato unenya uwa risk factors which are the main thing need diabetes and hypertension. So isamwela to unenya uwa liu ria maliu matuma with at risk of kukwata pressure kana sukali unistuma eventually we kwata complication sia sukali na pressure which one of them ni stroke.
Na dalili sia uwo si ya wasili hata.
So most of the time tunenia uwa symptoms ila siuka you whether brain ni kuna a lot of function here control ya most of the things undu kutembea kunena kuya activities. So either ni section ya brain they affected no kite mundu akuka na weakness. So kuda nondo yamba kuda the whole brain twinene wa section one part of the brain is affected or kalungu depending on which part of the brain. So wokoka ena weakness ya koko na mao sengia koka kedha ndanena nesa watende upoteye kana speech inena etla ngaslad speech nundu wa section ile ya factor ya brain mundu no kesangio kedha ndakuona nesa kana na a lot of tremors na sangio kedha of course you weakness that tembea.
Na pengine yuwa weta okethia ni mao mundu rusunda utembea ni kwasia be nerve yumite akilini ya mundu ikathingi na mao na hiyo either ya affected.
Yes, brain nitayo well if I say ngo ni supply blood to the body to function ni control ya function kedha ni mao undu motembea the control the remote control katika brain. So mao moko kunena is supposed to this control from organs katika brain. So if that is affected you lose that function.
Be undungu mundu to na ukethia no kwigwa can you feel it kana yuna na kwigwa kwithia mawa mayote mbea lakini withia onu mundu ira yigwe muwau ukethia no igwa bebando.
Most of the time no kwate warning signs earlier ukethia maybe ukua mkoko kukwanda kanokethia no kuwa we heavy kanokegwa yes mwiz face heavy kwanda majorly but it depends on the type of stroke that ni the ischemic iso to kwasia mzaka meina abikanesa yuke pole pole wa kwata symptoms so that maybe wampie kwa kukwanda kana speech misbehave na alafu ikuthi progress but if it is hemorrhagic ya kubust iso ina warning sign nundo it is just blood ya burst the you is yuka to acutely but tena warning signs.
No ki akili ukethia no withio kuchanganyikiwa wewe mundu withia ukewia wewe akili
it normal not really but saying kwa kintika transient ischemic attack ila mundu no akwate symptom tasia stroke na si disappear it okay unene okay that maybe confusion na disappear kanoko kwata isu mwe kukwanda kana wime kana udhiwa kasaidi mwe na wesioka before 24 hours tele nokuza twakuna pisa ya mtu yisawa so that is an early warning sign that mundu no eba kube no kusokata stroke ala ko modify kana ku correct samela stuma ekwata stroke.
Na pengine tha mundu ni wewe dalili isu kana ni wona mundu aku we ena dalili isu waili tekwikata
aile ku hospital immediately twasia time is brain ama time is muscle. You know no say brain muscles undo si umbetwe siduka very quickly si akosa blood supply so immediately wa kwata stroke wa ile kusema hospitali nundo pesa mustonya kwa immediately kujaribu ku prevent that brain damage wa selewa kana wa bika bit too late pe undo ithia but nothing will be done to the damage ila yakika okay you deal na ku prevent kana kuambia kwa rehabilitation. So where were symptoms kana wakwata signs ya stroke immediately go to the hospital.
Utona manata mundu ngena dalili iso cia stroke.
You know one uthio kona maybe wona uthio side mwe mouth need dilated side mwe mundu mwine na wona wase utakuma nesa kana it is terrible kumya wase na ndakumya words na maybe abaloke rundu wa weakness you say weakness side mwe na ndazo yo abaloka rundu wa weakness then you realize kweli babe na problem the moment uko na weakness na uko na mouth deviation na speech affected those are the signs of stroke. We immediately take that person to the hospital.
Asante. Museisi tuende na kunana nesi yulo wa stroke ande ni wa kilungu cha Uiiti yetha wine kulyo kana woni yulo wa kilungu ki tutumie kwisila ili tukenda imwe itano na nitwethe wa tuikunikela ekulyo yaku twina Dr. Ngami kuma Leonard Specialist Clinic tamba kuthi mone mukuvi nitusiokethetie ni kana tutabie wa mino bika hospitali madaktari mama na hata kana wina uwo tukathibasa nitusiokethetie. Museisia ni na ugocha ingithe ni wa kilungu cha Uiiti twende na ukwatiania na daktari twinanisia yulu wa stroke na daktari twithio mwana wena atavia undu tutona umana mundu ena dalili isu pengine tha ni wona mundu ungi ena dalili isu wailite kwikata
wona mundu ekwata signs ile tukasema stroke weakness munuka kudecide mwe kana deviation no the speech is becoming difficult while kumoto hospitali immediately ndo to asia time is brain wabika hospitali imituke the earlier you get there ni wobe na options being si andakitali kweka something to save the brain ndo brain cells sikusa mituke si akosa blood so whether ni wabika ni hospitali after about 4 hours with awambia kwata permanent damage to the brain na nisio to kwenda ku prevent so to be hospitali immediately kenda nengo the right treatment ku prevent complications.
Pengine mundu asalewa kutwa hospitali kwa mituke ni chao kila kitu anakwikika
kila tu kwitha twe sine kuona you permanent damage kana mortality death nondo brain cells yakwa ndo amba ku regenerate siyoka you la to kuta to deal na you ida ku deal na what is the extent of the damage okay then the location ila weakness is it not going to be permanent unless to get rehabilitation or the damage has already occurred by undu weka lakini you the treatment after that ni ku prevent further damage kana ku prevent recurrence of the same
na be first aid pengine mundu to nonengwa kana no ngina asembwa kuoneka ndakitali.
The most important ni kupika hospitali as soon as possible, but of course first aid ya kawaida ensure this person is breathing kenda usise the no ku breathe no usise kana ngone kukuna no usise kana ndaile na undu tonya kweka aspiration kumelia mataka nake aka aspiration so you have to make sure mundu no is safe na ngoni kukuna nesa na nde katika danger ya kukwata any usise ngino kwate stroke isu ya hemorrhagic no kethe you mundu so akambia ku convulse nondwa the extent so when such a situation you just make sure the person is safe no amuya place comfortable it any danger things no open air we no could breathe nesa as you call for help to take the person to the hospital.
Na pengine peke ndo mata ile itakwika
ila twasya mundu yuse senge wono kamba niwona mundu ambia ku convulse mundu akwika kisiko mundu kaneke ndajaribu ku prevent nini mayo meka kwatane so such things we should not do no there risk ya ku cause damage so just make sure mundu swe katika safe environment no amuye on the side dakatone kumelia mataka na kumelia kendo eke aspiration na we make sure no ku breathe nesa mweka surround ye muno mwambie kwete obstruction.
Asante. Na mwauni wapi cha hospitali daktari amana hata mundu ena stroke na kuma buni chao kilaweka
vitu ambia na history na physical examination. History kumanya what are the risk factors mundu either ana pressure either ana sukari nutumia ndawa ni wa kwate stroke ingi either ana thina yote wa ngo nunyusa skala kana ni with the ndawa tumia for another condition tweka history to kweka examination to confirm symptoms kweli be na weakness. Is there weakness? Are we seeing mouth deviation? Can you smile to onekana kweli no sustain a smile kana be na difficulties in that and then to echo to confirm the first thing we do to mutoma for a CT scan. Immediately CT scan to confirm which kind of stroke no the treatment ni different to manyekana inoni ya blood itana vika kana ni blood basti to amanya to treat accordingly. Of course to check the important things la risk factor sukali wiliata pressure iliata neta si yolumu no to kwambia kuzi address immediately sukali to kwambia ku correct as we find out which kind of stroke na deal with it.
Na mundu akwatikana na Uwau no reverse we kana no avoid
no correction no avoid depending on the how soon abike hospitali na what was the extent ya ila stroke damage. Nusu no kwata stroke affect a big region of the brain okay the deformity ni massive kana kwata stroke kidogo okay the deformity is not massive na you whether no bikie leto kasa time is brain wa bika tene whether actually kunenge because of that clot that clot kenda with the blood flow near the reinstated immediately. Lakini wabika after a specified time la tuikane kunenge ndawasha ku prevent ama ku correct what is going on na you either when a damage tukwambia physiotherapy kana tuta rehabilitation kenda to return function ya ila weakness. So whether ni yake ka stroke what we work towards ni ku regain the function through rehabilitation. Na you the aggressiveness ya physiotherapy exercise retraining again niyo ku determine recovery for the patient.
Na lama kwata wani thina wa kunena mundu ucio therapy na kasioke kunena.
Yes, there is usually occupational na speech therapy. So depending on the extent no physiotherapy akwa speech therapy occupational therapy kenda with the you know retain function ni wa regain function si swinge lakini sengu keda it was so extensive kana too late we cannot regain those function. It is possible.
Akamba muno twasya mundu ucu ni wakuyengali kwemwe ezu ni yota mwila nzio ya kutumia kana mwi witha wikire ata ukethia mundu ucu yu etha ni kwoko kuutumika yani ni paralyzed ni chao kila kitha yukitete thina
ni the control it is a brain control the control the ni kama wina network pala bedha na ila hub i control ya so the control section has been turned off. Ni stroke isu ni the damage so there is nothing to give instruction to this body na you you now unless you rehabilitate again takana kwambia inge kuvundisha kwa kuno exercise kuvundisha kuno kutembea ingi. So that is what usually happens because brain is the control. Na you last section they affected you either side then right side of the body, the control is on the left side. So that the stroke in the brain is side, you know, they are affected. Wakwata stroke on this side, they will lose control their side, they are the right side of the body.
Kwa uti kwa no control ikosekana.
Yes.
Nando akamba tutume ande twesu na hii nando mundu eothayo no endete kwa uno control ite
no control ite
na eka therapy su control ni to no siokana
with time nisioka na depend on the intensity na exercise na ondo mundu so dedicated sayingine ona power so sioka pole pole tutumia in terms of power tukwasha power kawaida kwako you na power if complete ni 5/5 you power is sawa lakini as you get stroke no ina power 0 keda yuko ku move lakini with exercise mazoezi wana ya sioka. So treatment ya stroke apart from dawa and everything else see there to prevent a recurrence, but the damage that has already occurred, mazoezi, rehabilitation, physiotherapy, speech therapy, is just stay this ya ku regain functioning.
Asante. Ni mathina kana ni challenges siba mundu wa survivor wa stroke utona ukwata?
Mostly ni change in lifestyle. We say when you get deformity na ni mundu naso yete kwika everything for themselves kunena kudichoni kudiwiani na you wekwata such weakness now you're dependent we tembea na wheelchair kana we are dependent on people to do, so that is usually very intense na ni affect ya mundu. So change in lifestyle, quality of life depending on the severity of the stroke na also little na ndwangi mekwata even because of that acute change mundu ekwata psychological involvement, depression, stress nondwa now what our life has changed.
Asante. Na yona ata tutona kwikanika no kethia kila mundu no wesoviana na uwau.
The most important kumanya stroke risk factors ni chao na that one risk factors diabetes, hypertension, smoking isa mwisu sio ndawe the way that they know asukali ni wenda clinic we controlled kadhani wedana they know pressure ni wisi namba siaku no dhima wa no nyusa ndawa na ye controlled kadhani no nyusa skala we kana skala kadhani they are very inactive na we active your life is sedentary no quicker exercise kenda to reduce obesity na risk ya kupata isa mwino ingi kadhani no nyusa ndawa sia kulevya cocaine amphetamine isino situmekata stroke twekana nasio. Yes, na whether una thina wango we on follow up we controlled kenda with then na risk ya kukwata isa most onyo tuma we kwata stroke.
Kila mundu wale taikala hivi hospitali kwika check up ni kana tusiyo wao
ni important na lazima wakati ni in an hospital setup. Onasengila we were medical camps pena free screening. It is always good kuthi udhimweke nda umanye what is going on with your body. Ni they are advisable any adult above 40 years we say no isi pressure ya kwithia ile hata no isi sukali wa kwithia wile hata na ni isi sambula stonya kutume kukwata thina wa mwe either sukali ni pressure whether ni obesity na no ku address isa mwisuko anytime there's an opportunity quick screening show up for screening kenda with anyways where you are.
Asante. Tuligendeni wa make hiyo myth na misconception na tuyambia na ki andwa ingi mona ono wa andwa ima kana la kuumemoka niguo
aye tiwo saingire their stroke no equate age no risk factor for sure no ndwa the risk factors diabetes na hypertension but stroke no equate anybody that kunene obo na thina wango no affect anyone and wona ashana singisi kwa tatu rheumatic heart disease and wakata that one it is a risk for getting atrial fibrillations na heart condition that can predispose you kukwata stroke. Singine wona especially in some regions in the country alapita sickle cell anemia. This is that form of anemia very common in the Kisumu, those regions, Homa Bay. So isu the blood they are very thick na wakwata risk of getting stroke. So siana no sikwate stroke ti uwa andwema peke yake.
Asante. Na akamba na kana ni mundu wa unambonie oi
aye tikuowa kana kusiswa nai it's a real medical condition na need to risk factors ni samuto tonya ku control ku prevent ila kwa sa ita pressure ita sukali o prevent complication. Stroke ni one of the complication tukwida kwa sa ita to prevent kana to delay.
Kwithi itabaya musi remedies ila itona utuma tusiye ya Uiiti ola wailete na pengine complications ila itona uka.
The most important ni lifestyle modification, which is diet. Diet with the tuya liula healthy, nutritious, utuma wongela a lot of weight, kana we kwata risk ya diabetes na hypertension. Number 2 ni kuita physically active. Kutembea, quicker exercise, it is very good for your body. Need make ya even your blood flow very fluent, kumake ya utekwata pressure, utekwata diabetes, isamula stonya kutuma we kwata stroke. Kulea kunywa skala. Smoking is very bad. There is nothing good about smoking. Ikosa ya lung cancer, ikosa ya atherosclerosis, stroke, ya kunenge itau ipaye kinuka kisiona smoking. So we stop things like those that can put you at risk of getting stroke.
Asante. Daktari utumani wako wa mothia ni mwao kwa kunenga wikwatio pengine mundu ina uwau na kwa mundu nambo mukwata utona mutabiata.
Kether with a diagnosis kana ni watamse kana whether wina stroke no kether na nini, just make sure no control risk factors ila si the necessary tumekwata stroke ko kwende na ndawa ila si ku prevent stroke. Daktari wa kukwikite dawa si ku control the risk factors zeda ni diabetes, zeda ni sukari, zeda ni cholesterol, wende na sio na kwende na mazoezi na physiotherapy kenda u regain function. It is possible with exercise na physiotherapy to regain function of your weakness. Ila wakwache weakness ko there is no reason to lose hope, ni kwende na check up na follow up.
Asante daktari, tulikane masitwa na bala wethiawa.
Yes, kwa masitwa ni Dr. Ngami Mutwa, consultant physician at the Leonard Specialist Clinic la Ivanosusu Center. Karibu.
Asante daktari Dr. Ngami nondwauka na kutueleza yoluwa uwo na indi na kuwe musiaisia newewa isubie na indi etha wina uwau ndukakwengo nutona uvoa tia kila daktari unokutabia kila mundu newewa sisi kiloya ika exercise na indi utona kwikala thayu ula wailite no mubiano ndo kwatia na itonde wa kilungu cha Uiiti ethe wina mawoni kana kulio tutumie kwisila ile tukenda imo 5 ambia na ndeto Uiiti na itwe wa tuisisia utomani waku nyeni tawa Robert Mutuko ni kuendea usaisia musio wa ilungu sito ilasi atete tiwanesa.